It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of June 10th, 2005. We got 5 movies to look at today. A lot of notable movies. We got the one that has probably the most notable controversy of the whole thing, as it was the film that essentially broke up the relationship of Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston and gave us the introduction to Brangelina. We also have Robert Rodriguez's son, who wrote a movie that he directed, and needless to say, it wasn't that good. A movie that was widely panned when it came out, with which was basically a black version of a popular television series made into a movie, and you might be surprised what I have to say about it, quite honestly. But we also have a Cécile de France from Around the World in 80 Days, and a horror film, and also Hayao Miyazaki's latest film. So we got 5 films to look at today, so let's go ahead and jump on into it. We got a lot to cover, so on to the first movie. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie in Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I mean, what more do I have to say about this movie that hasn't already been said already? You got Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie starring as a bored middle-class married couple who are surprised to learn that they are assassins, belonging to competing agencies, and that they have been assigned to kill each other. And of course you see Vince Vaughn in there among the cast, as well as Kerry Washington and Adam Brody. But let's get to what everyone wants me to talk about, and that is the fact that this was the movie that was highly publicized because of the relationship that began to grow between Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. And, you know, Brad Pitt was married to Jennifer Aniston at the time, and then early in 2005, Brad and Jennifer split up, and many people believe it was because of this movie, and it became the big thing that everyone was talking about besides the film itself. And not only that, Vince Vaughn, I guess in kind of a revenge to Brad Pitt, decided to go ahead and date Jennifer Aniston, and then they would star in a movie together the following year with the breakup. We'll get to that one next year, but yeah, this movie was mostly highly publicized because of the real life relationship that grew with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. And when you see the movie, you can see why there was such a buzz about them, because the chemistry in this movie between them is really good. The movie really is very cool and very good, like a very stylized, action-packed movie. You could tell this was directed by the same guy that did The Bourne Identity, and yeah, it's just a really good movie, and it's like a mix between True Lies and War of the Roses, except in the case of True Lies, both the husband and the wife are working for the government, are working as secret agents in here instead of just Arnold Schwarzenegger in the War of the Roses, because they want to kill each other. They have to kill each other by the end of the movie, and yeah, like I said, it's a stylish, cool movie. I mean, Angelina Jolie is the sexiest she's been up to this point. I mean, good lord. Like, I mean, she really is that beautiful in this movie. I mean, but then again, you put her in sexy lingerie, that's it for me. I'm good. But she's really good in the movie. Brad Pitt's really good in the movie. Vince Vaughn has some good, funny moments, too. The action sequences are a ton of fun. The comedy is very good. It's just a really good, fun movie all the way through. It's a film that is just so cool, so stylish, so engaging. It's hard to believe this was written by the same guy that would destroy the X-Men series as a whole later on down the road, Simon Kinberg. Like, it's one of his few good. It's probably one of the few good movies he's ever made as a filmmaker as a whole. And hey, he made it work. And film was a huge success, not surprisingly, and it actually led to a television series that's currently on Amazon Prime with Donald Glover and Maya Erskine, which I've only seen a couple of episodes of, but it's pretty good. It's actually really good. Plus, it's Donald Glover, so of course it's going to work. But yeah, it's a really good movie. I really like it a lot. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, what more do I got to say? Good, fun, stylish, cool action movie. Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie. So yeah, moving on to the next movie we have here. A movie that some might say is stylish, but some might also say that it's garbage too. That is The Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Oh, no. You thought I was kidding. No. This was written by the kids of Robert Rodriguez. The story comes from his 8-year-old son, Racer Max. And if you watch the movie, you could tell this was clearly written by an 8-year-old. The whole film's idea was written by an 8-year-old boy. And so as you see from the trailer there, Max is a normal kid with a dreaming habit making him a target for bullies. One day he accidentally summons his imaginary characters from his mind named Shark Boy and Lava Girl. They are his heroes who will defend him at all costs, but when they arrive for real, something unexpected happens. The two heroes need Max's help to save the world from a dire threat. And, yeah, this movie is all over the place. It's gonzo nuts, and not in a good way either. This isn't like Spy Kids, where Spy Kids can go gonzo crazy and can usually be fun at times, at least with the first two movies. This movie feels like this movie feels like Robert Rodriguez said, well, I made Spy Kids. I mean, if people will buy into that, surely they'll buy into a movie created by my kids. And, yeah, nobody really went into this movie expecting that. The film went on to become a massive flop at the box office, but did go on to have a cult following and even had a standalone legacy sequel in it with called We Can Be Heroes, which I've never seen. I have no intentions of ever seeing it, but Taylor Lautner's in it. Pre-Twilight, you know, back when he had hope for his career. George Lopez, David Arquette, Kristen Davis, just ridiculously stupid, over-the-top stupidness. I mean, really, that's all this movie really is. It's just nonsense. It's just nonsense all the way through. It's a lackluster film. It just doesn't work all the way through. Like, it's too crazy for its own good. This is when Robert Rodriguez had sort of was on kind of a downward spiral a little bit here, even though he had just done Sin City just a couple months prior to this. But this was where most of he was getting more misses than hits, pretty much, because every movie that came after this, sometimes you get a little gem here and there, like a Planet Terror or a Machete or a Sin City, A Dame to Kill For. But other than that, though, his career really started to take a nosedive, starting with this movie, and yeah, it just didn't work for me. So moving on to our next movie, and this one's going to be fun to talk about. Let's talk about The Honeymooners. So yeah, this is a film that was heavily panned when it came out, but yeah, it was a film that was tossed around for a number of years, sitting on a shelf at Paramount, so usually that's not a very good sign. In the film, based off the popular television show, you have the Cramdens and the Nortons, who are working-class neighbors. Bus driver Ralph Cramden, played here by Cedric the Entertainer, and sewer worker Ed Norton, played by Mike Epps, are best friends. Ralph is constantly masterminding get-rich-quick schemes with which Ed tries to help. The driving force behind them is their wives, Alice Cramden, played by Gabrielle Union, and Trixie Norton, played by Regina Hall. The men are trying to make enough money to afford the homes they think they and their wives deserve. Meanwhile, Alex and Trixie make ends meet by waitressing at the local diner. So yeah, it's pretty much straightforward The Honeymooners, except instead of Jackie Gleason, Art Carney, Audrey Meadows, and who was the last who played Trixie? I think I'm going to have to look. Joyce Randolph. I wouldn't have gotten that one, but it's basically that, except it's modernized, and instead of them being white, they're black. And, you know, everyone hates this movie. I think Roger Ebert was one of the only few people to give it a good review. And I think me and Roger have something in common, because I don't hate this movie. In fact, I would say it's not a bad movie. I mean, it's not a great movie, but it's not one of the worst adaptations of a TV show. It's not even the worst one that came out in 2005. Just wait until we get to the Dukes of Hazzard. That's one we can delve into. But this, I got what they were trying to do. I think the casting helps stage the movie a little bit. Cedric the Entertainer's pretty good. Mike Epps, Gabrielle Union, Regina Hall, having them play these roles, I think it works out for them. I could buy Gabrielle Union and Cedric the Entertainer as a Ralph and Alice in here. I can buy Mike Epps and Regina Hall as Ed and Trixie. I think the problem with the movie is this shouldn't be a movie. Like, really, it should not be a movie. Like, this could probably work as a television series. Like, if CBS... Like, if this is something I would think CBS would try to do with The Honeymooners nowadays. Like, make it into a television series. Because when you're trying to do this into a movie, this is one of those shows that really does not need a movie in general. There's nothing really you can do with this with a movie based off The Honeymooners. Even if you casted white people in it, like, there really is not that much of a difference between, you know, casting black. There's not really a difference between making a television series of 4 episodes of this instead of just making a feature-length film out of it. I think that was the biggest mistake of all with the film, was making this into a movie, because there's not really much you can do with The Honeymooners as a feature film. But when you really look at it, they do the best they can to try to keep it in the spirit of the original series. They're doing the best they can to try to modernize it for a new generation. And I think for 9 times out of 10, it works okay. It's not great. It doesn't do anything that spectacular. But even in the trailer at the end, the stuff they have in there is pretty funny. Like, I like the idea of Ralph and Ed trying to pretend they're blind. They're just like, we got a blind dog, and they put the glasses on the dog. Like, that's funny stuff. Ed talking about how he sees Alice naked to Ralph, and he's just like, sometimes I think about her, and Ralph ready to kill him. Like, that's funny stuff. That's stuff that actually does get a good laugh from me. And there are a lot of that. There was a lot of that throughout the course of the movie. Not every joke works. Like, the stuff with the mother-in-law gets pretty old pretty quickly. I mean, and it also doesn't help that the only particular version out there is a family-friendly PG version of it, and it's the only version you can get on DVD or Blu-ray. The PG-13 version I don't think has ever been released, which I guess why. I understand it, because this film was not a big hit, and Paramount pretty much dumped it as soon as it got out there. I mean, they put it in the middle of the biggest summer blockbusters, for God's sakes. But like I said, it's not a bad movie. It's a decent, enjoyable film. I'm not going to say it's a classic movie by any means necessary, but considering that Cedric the Entertainer has not made a lot of great movies as an actor, this is probably one of the few ones that I would say I actually did kind of enjoy. I liked this one a lot. As a good, fun movie. It's because this was the year when we had, the honeymoon. We had the Honeymooners. We're going to have the Dukes of Hazzard in a couple months. But we also have Bewitched coming up at the end of the month, which is another movie that got severely thrashed by critics, and I don't think it really deserved that either. But we'll get to that in a couple weeks, aka a couple days from this point. But I actually like this movie. I like it enough to say it's a good, fun time if you go into it with the right mindset. Compare this to movies like Soul Plane, The Cookout, Malibu's Most Wanted, King's Ransom. This movie is definitely a million times better than those movies, because I got good, legitimate laughs out of this. I got what they were trying to do. There was at least an effort being put into it to at least keep this in the spirit of the original Honeymooners TV series. And for the most part, I thought it worked okay. It's not a classic movie by any means necessary, but if you go into it with the right mindset, if you go into it knowing that you should be going into getting a much better movie than you think you would, I think you will get that. I think there is a lot to like about the film. Like I said, not a classic by any means necessary, but certainly a million times better than a lot of other movies of this type, and one that I would say is definitely worth a watch. I'm probably going to be one of the few people out there to say that this movie actually is somewhat good, but hey, I'll stick with it. More power to it. I'm still the guy that says that Disney Star Wars era is much better than what George Lucas left behind with the prequels, and let me see if I can remember to actually put the like to dislike ratio on this one. Let me see. Yeah. That was from my video I did a couple months ago about how I thought Star Wars was better under Disney. 1 like, 9 dislikes. I still don't get it. But then again, it's the internet. But yeah, that's the Honeymooners. So with that said, on to the next movie. Cecile de France in the horror film High Tension. Well, I guess when they call it in France, hot tension, like it's called Hot Tension, but it's also called Switchblade Romance in some other countries. But this is a French slasher film directed by Alexandre Aja, who the following year would make the remake of The Hills Have Eyes. And in it, you have 2 female students who drive to one of the family's secluded farmhouses to study for their exams, where a murderer shows up on the night of their arrival. So it's basically a slasher movie in general, but a pretty good one, too. It's a really intense, graphic, pretty cool, stylish-looking horror movie that isn't just a typical slasher film in general. This isn't like another Friday the 13th retread. It kind of has its own unique style to it, and I think the performances by Cecile de France and Mai Wen overall work pretty well for the film's intentions, and I think the film overall can be a ton of fun and really show a lot of really cool, stylish, over-the-top violence that works to the film's advantage. It's got this cool look to it, very stylized, very cool. I really liked it. High tension, hot tension, if you will. So, on to the last film, Howl's Moving Castle. This is Studio Ghibli's follow-up to their Oscar-winning success with Spirited Away, and in this movie, you have the film set in a fictional kingdom where both magic and early 20th century technology are prevalent. Against the backdrop of a war with another kingdom, it tells the story of Sophie, a young milliner who is turned into an elderly woman by a witch who enters her shop and curses her. She encounters a wizard named Hal and gets caught up in his resistance to fight for the king. You have a cast that includes, the English dub version includes Emily Mortimer, Gene Simmons, Christian Bale, Lauren Bacall, Billy Crystal, Blythe Danner, Jenna Malone, Josh Hutcherson. Strong cast overall in the movie, and the film, I remember, actually did not get the best reviews when it came out initially. Most people did praise the movie for its animation, and of course, it's Hayao Miyazaki. Of course, the animation is going to look great, but I remember the film actually getting a lot of mixed reviews when it came out. But it has gone on to have this big following, and has become known as a significant one of their most significant movies in general. And I don't know, I thought it was pretty good when it came out, and I still like it now. It's a film that is really good, and of all things, it's actually inspired by Miyazaki's opposition to the Iraq War, of all things. And hey, it's a pretty cool idea. It's a pretty interesting idea to make a movie based off of that, and it works very well. You got a strong cast overall. The characters are really cool. Christian Bale, I think, is very fun as Hal himself. It's just a really cool, stylish film. Yeah, it doesn't have the same grandiose atmosphere, something like Spirited Away, but there's a lot of cool things about the film. The castle moving is really cool. You see a lot of steampunk elements being thrown in there. It's just a really fun, stylish film that, yeah, maybe not... I think people were expecting yet another Spirited Away type of film, but Spirited Away is such a unique film on its own merits, not because of just the animation, but because of the storytelling, it's through the visuals, and just how scenes in that movie can just work without anybody talking. The scene inside the bus alone, with all the spirits in there, still is one of the best scenes of animation I've ever seen. This movie doesn't have those type of moments in there, but the film is still really impressive to look at. It's still a very stylized, cool film. And it's Hayao Miyazaki, man. Like, the guy very rarely misses his mark. He's only missed his mark one time, and that's when he went all CG with that rock movie he did. What was it called? I'm trying to remember if I can. I'm trying to see if I can remember it without... What was it? Now I can't remember it. But maybe it wasn't him. Maybe he was just the producer on it. Earwig and the Witch is what I'm thinking of here. Maybe he was just maybe he wasn't completely involved in it. Maybe he was just the producer on it. But as far as the director goes, Hayao Miyazaki very rarely misses. And here's one where he shows that he's still got it. He's still got it. Yeah, not much more to say about it. Definitely check this one out. Howl's Moving Castle. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. The next time we meet, Christian Bale will be back, this time as the Dark Knight, as we get to see a rebranded, revitalized Batman with Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins, the one that kind of started the trend of comic book movies becoming more than just the typical Marvel movies we've been getting. The game changer that really changed it all with this particular film we've got coming up. We also have Hilary Duff in a new movie with Heather Locklear, The Perfect Man. We'll take a look at both of those movies, both on the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the place on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So, with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.